Hi everyone. So now it's the time to talk about the code syntax of Svelte JS. So first of all, like how to populate the values, we can just use a single parenthesis for that. Like if there is any value, then this is called interpolation in other framework. Like there is a value and you wanted to put it in the template. This is just the simplest way of doing it. Okay, and you can write a simple functions like I can do a on click on button. So there is a special syntax you have to use for on click, and here you have to define that method. Handle click, and this is a JavaScript function which you have to define in your. So initially I was passing name as Tarun and I'm concatenating the Sarma there. So it keeps adding the value here. If you can see a simple Tarun, and click here, and it is just updating the value, and this value is getting propagated here because this is the name is the variable you are assigning, so it will invalidate the name and you should be able to get the new value of the name. A simple example, right? So this is how you will interpolate, and this is how you will change the values. Now another examples we can talk about is the reactive variables. Let's say, how can I put a watcher on a particular variable? Let's say I have a variable which keeps changing, and whenever that variable changes, I wanted to display that value onto the UI, right? Reactive nature of the variables, and those we call as a reactive variables, and those can be created with the dollar expression. So whenever you see the dollar, that means it's a reactive variable. Let's say I'm doing uppercase, and here name dot to uppercase. This is the function I'm calling, and I can, this uppercase is just a variable, so I can print this value uppercase. So what this dollar means? Dollar means I'm going to return you the new value of uppercase every time wherever the value of the name is getting changed. So wherever you do a handle click, you update the name and concat the last name of the user, then this uppercase will be calculated again, it will be invalidated, and the new value will get printed. Okay, if you see this, you can see the uppercase version is getting printed below. Why that is happening? Initially what is the uppercase value? Uppercase is the initial value is the Tarun, right? Now when you click onto this, you actually change the value of name, but it has impact on the uppercase because I am watching. You can understand it, it is a reactive variable. Reactive variable means whenever there is a change in the name, I have to react, I have to calculate this value, and I have to assign that value to the uppercase. So it will invalidate the old uppercase value and it will calculate the new value, and we should be able to see that on the UI. If we see this how the output looks like, then we can understand it more. So I can just try to, so this handle click, it will invalidate the name value, and then yeah, so this is what it is doing. Whenever the name props is getting changed, right, it will invalidate the name value and it will calculate the uppercase value and it will invalidate it. This is how actually the watcher is actually working. This is the instance of it, and whenever there is an update, obviously it will also invalidate the uppercase value, because now we have the new value of uppercase available. After you click onto the button, you update the name, uppercase will trigger the reactive change, new value is there, and it will invalidate the uppercase with the name also. Okay, a simple example, these are called the reactive variables with the dollar. If there is something you wanted to trigger after a particular change and you wanted to recalculate, then we can do it this way. Binding, we just have a name variable and we wanted to bind it with some input text field. So I have a simple input and the type is text, and the value is bind with this name property. Okay, on input, so there should be some method on input, and we can call a method on the on input handle input. Okay, so on the handle input we can get the value what are you entering, and that value we can print in the UI. So I will just call this handle input function. I mean, there is a shortcut. We can also use just a simple bind, and this what it contains is it contains the event object, and we can do console.log, and we have to assign this value to this event.target.value. Then only it will should be able to invalidate. This is same as like we were actually doing this .set state in the React. After you entered something in the input text field, right, then only it should be able to populate that value. So we just remove it from the parent component. We are not getting any props, right? So whatever you are typing, it is able to print that, right? Why that is happening? Because we have done the binding of this. I mean, the value is with the name, and on the handle input we are changing the name. So it's again same example of invalidate. We keep reassigning the name value with whatever we are typing, and it keeps updating it. So this can also be done in the reactive way. What it does is you can also bind the value with the input. So you can see whatever I'm typing, that is getting updated, and it is showing initially undefined. So what you can do is you can initialize it with some value. Okay, so this is called the property binding, you can call it, because what we are doing is we are binding the properties, and this is also called two-way data binding. Whatever we are typing, that is getting updated in the name, and there may be some button you can write where you do one click and you change the name property, and that name property will be updated in the template. Because we are typing, it is updating this name property, or you update this name property from some another event, and it will also update it on the UI. So this is a simple two-way data binding shortcut you can add just by doing a bind colon value. So you don't need to write a input change method on this text field. So we will talk about this core syntax, more about component. So let's talk about this core syntax in the next video also, where we can talk about how the component communicate via props, and much more about the component we are going to discuss.